Welcome to Dory Cote on Shamanism, a weekly podcast that explores one theme in shamanism throughout each month. Get comfortable, have a seat, and let's get started.
Welcome to episode 28 of this podcast series, and we will be speaking today about a sacred shamanic ceremony called Psychopomp.
It has been said that shamans can help dead souls go to the light. What does that mean?
Yes, well, from time immemorial, centuries and centuries and centuries, shamans have done many ceremonies with the souls of people who have died or passed over. And one of those ceremonies is called Psychopomp, which I believe I said in the overview in an earlier podcast, is from a Greek word which translated means leader of souls. Well, the Psychopomp ceremony basically is helping somebody who has died, helping the spirit or soul of somebody who has died to move into the light or into heaven or the upper world, whatever language you want to use for that place where one's soul can be fulfilled and delighted, no longer suffering, at peace, and hopefully evolving into whatever next part of that soul's life is about. The ceremony is called Psychopomp because literally what the shaman is doing is helping a spirit who is stuck here, who died perhaps usually in some kind of traumatic experience, very unexpectedly, and is stuck here on the earth plane and unable to find their way into the light. And so this ceremony is one that can be performed for somebody who has died and there is a suspicion that they might be stuck, or it is also a ceremony that can be performed to do a diagnosis about whether there is a particular person who is stuck here. And another possibility is that when somebody is experiencing a disturbance in their home, they feel that there's some unhealthy spirits hanging around, creating mischief, then a shaman might be called to diagnose and see if there are spirits around that need to be psychopomped. The same is true with land. Sometimes spirits just get stuck in a place that is on a piece of land, and there's disturbance around that land, and helping to psychopomp those spirits into the light will help release the land from suffering. So there's many, many possibilities of when Psychopomp might be performed. It is a sacred ceremony. It is beautiful. It is magnificent, and it works.
How would a shaman know if someone was stuck here on earth after dying?
The most helpful way, the most complete way that a shaman would know that someone is stuck would be to do a journey, to intentionally see, knowing the person's name and their date of birth and approximately where they were when they died, the shaman could journey to see if that spirit is around. Are they stuck here? That's the most important way for a shaman to know for sure whether a spirit is stuck here or not. A suspicion might be born out of, that might prompt a shaman to check that out when somebody reports some unusual activity that they suspect is regarding a spirit being stuck in their home. And more often, it's because somebody reports that someone they love or someone they know has died under traumatic circumstances. And those would be things like, dying very abruptly in some accident of one kind or another, or through suicide, or murder, or an act of war, or sometimes in natural circumstances, such as, a natural act of God, so to speak, a hurricane, a tornado, or something of that nature. And the shaman would travel outside of space and time to see if they can connect with that person's soul and help them to make peace with whatever is happening for them here on Earth and help them find their way into the light. So literally the shaman leads them into the light as far as the shaman can go, and then it's called often a push-through ceremony, and then helps that spirit literally push through the veils and into the light.
Does it help living relatives and friends when their loved one gets psychopomped?
It does often help relatives and other loved ones, because when somebody dies and their spirit gets stuck here on Earth, there is an energy of discontent or, a vibration that is disturbing. And some people feel that. They know that their beloved who died under some very unusual, challenging, traumatic experience may be suffering. And so when the Psychopomp ceremony is complete and that person's spirit is led into the light, the loved ones who are still here on Earth are released of that sense of their loved one suffering, and it helps them typically to know that their loved one is in the light and is happy and is content and is having an opportunity to evolve and is well, is not suffering. That is the key, is like helping the beloveds who are still here on Earth to understand that their loved one is no longer suffering. Because to be stuck here on the Earth can be challenging for a soul. It is. I've often described it as, for those of us who go back to the era of when we had LP records, it's like the needle being stuck in the groove of a record and not being able to advance, not being able to jump over to the next groove. It just keeps. So the soul that is stuck here is repeating the same scenario over and over and over again, and is not, they don't even really have a sense of time, which is why often somebody might have an experience of having, a spirit in their home who was a part of that home, maybe even lived in the home 50, 100, 150 years ago. And that spirit doesn't even realize that, many families have come and gone from this space from the time they lived there, because they're literally just stuck. They're stuck in this vortex that makes it not possible for them to evolve. So there's great relief on the part of everybody when that soul is psychopomped and led into the light.
Can a person still connect with a deceased person who has been psychopomped and moved on?
Yes, a person can still connect with the soul of somebody after they've been psychopomped. In fact, they can't really connect with them when they're stuck here in what we call the middle world, when they're stuck here on the earth plane, because they're incapable of truly communicating with anybody. They're just stuck in their own repetitive pattern. Once a soul has been psychopomped and is in the light and is able to evolve, then they are available to communicate. They might even travel back down here to the earth plane to hang around for a while, to be in loving contact with their beloveds who are still here in a body, and then go back to the light. They are able to move in all dimensions of this other reality. And so I want to clarify this. I don't want anybody in the listening audience to assume that if they're communicating, if they see and they know that the spirit of some beloved is around them, it does not mean they're stuck here. It means that they have gone into the light and they're able to move around, so they can pop in and visit, pop back out again, pop in and visit again. They can be in 3 or 4 places at once. They can be visiting with you and visiting with your sister at the same time. So it's important to know that there's a huge difference between experiencing the spirit of a beloved around you in a very loving kind of way, a helpful kind of way, and the experience of somebody who is stuck here in a repetitive pattern and is not happy, is not content, and cannot really be with you in a loving way.
Do you ever have to do a soul retrieval for someone that you're psychopumping before you're able to move them into light, in part because of the trauma that they went through during their death process, if they died traumatically?
Yes, that is a really good question. Yes, it is possible to do a soul retrieval or some other form of healing ceremony on the soul of somebody who has passed over and is stuck here. And in fact, it is true that sometimes the stuck soul does need some healing intervention in order for that soul to be whole enough to move on into the light. So there are at times interventions that need to occur in addition to the psychopomp work itself. And again, a good, well-trained shamanic practitioner or shaman would know how to recognize that and help heal that soul before psychopomping them.
This completes our prepared questions. Do you have anything you would like to add?
I would like to just end by saying, if you know of somebody who has died in some kind of tragic circumstance and you don't know whether they have ever been psychopomped, then, or whether anybody has checked to see if they need to be psychopomped, then I would strongly recommend that you connect with a local shamanic practitioner or find somebody, online who is reputable. You could go to Sandra Ingerman's website and find practitioners all over the world, or you can contact me and I'd be happy to either do it for you or pass you on to somebody who is closer by who might do that for you. It is a true service. It is, when I train other practitioners, I often say this is where the shaman really steps into the role of the shaman, because this is not about money. If I know, for instance, that somebody in my community died in some tragic way, I don't need permission from anybody in the family. It is my responsibility as a shaman to take the time to journey and see if that soul needs help. I'm never going to get paid for that, because there's nobody here to pay me. It doesn't matter. It's not about money. It's about where the shaman steps into being responsible as a shaman. And so if you happen to know of somebody, then this is a service that should be provided to you without an expectation of a lot of payment. And, perhaps you make a donation to that shaman, or you help them in some other way. But it is an important part of keeping the planet and our environment really healthy, because if we have a lot of souls stuck here, who are not happy and suffering, then that energy permeates our space. And so it's always good to check it out.
Thank you for listening to Dory Cote on Shamanism. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, reactions, and questions. Come on over to dorycote.com and join the conversation. And tune in next week for more on this subject, or next month for a new subject. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes, or sign up on dorycote.com to receive notices when the podcasts are posted. That's Dory, D-O-R-Y, and Cote, C-O-T-E.com. Drumming and rattling by Dory Cote and Terry Morgan. Technical assistance and audio production by JillHackett.com. And this is Susan Savelle, wishing you many blessings in your life. We hope to have you join us next time.